A little bit of a big day in the Toys for Watt shop, and almost verging on the melancholy. The original 700 watt turbine is coming down. This is what helps to have a spare wind turbine laying around. And she's down. Okay, this is our 700 watt turbine. It has been up in the air for 15 months. March? Yeah, 15 months. It has been out there for over a year, and it has done really well that entire time. I have been really happy with this turbine. I think that it's just good turbine. It met the expectations, or met the manufacturer claims. And it's performed really well the entire time. The only thing that I haven't liked about it is that these blades, they're very sharp, they're kind of flimsy, and the tips, I don't know if the tips actually will show in the screen, but the tips they're flat, and it's very noisy. Whenever the wind is really pushing, these tips will flutter and makes quite a racket. The only issue that I've had with it coming down, there's two things, I guess I should say. There's two issues that I've got with it, is that the trailing edge of this, and this is part of our environment. We're very dusty, very dirty out here, so lots of, I will say, polishing going on. The trailing edge of each of the blades, it is like a razor blade. I cut myself pulling it down on one of these blades, which is, it's not necessarily a fault. It is what it is. The other thing that I just noticed it as I brought everything in here. As my plan was to take it back apart to do an inspection of the stator, but I don't know that I'm going to, because this O-ring is cracked up. Right now it's still sealed up, but if I open that up, that O-ring is probably going to fall apart. So I don't know that I necessarily want to do that yet. This will end up going to somebody else, and I hate to see it go, but whenever you're working on this kind of thing, you should always be ready to move on. And that's what I'm doing. I'm going to be putting the next interesting project up on that tower. So that's that. Now let's see. The same thing is like with the 400 that I had up. The blades. If I had this up any longer, I would definitely paint them, because there is you can feel it in the surface. It's not as bad as those 400 blades were, but there is a little bit of texture going on, a little bit of UV degradation. The powder coating, let's see if I can rotate this around a little bit. Get my chair out of the way. The powder coating, I mean, this is still glossy and shiny. The only things that I can see is maybe it got hit with a piece of hail or something. I don't know. This is one of the things I really like. It's all metal. It's all steel, except this is cast aluminum. The stator housing is cast aluminum, and they hold up really well. The paint was in really good shape. There is like some dust built up underneath the slip ring, under the bearing, and around the base, but there's not so much going on there that I think that it's just, leaked all the grease out. There's a tiny little squeak turning it, but it turns very smoothly. This thing has tracked in the wind perfectly without any problem whatsoever. Same thing turning the rotor. Whoops. My table's just not quite big enough to deal with this. There's no noise, no grinding, no cogging. It turns smooth. This thing is started up in really easy wind. It's been a really good turbine. Now, this thing has peaked at about 1400 watts. I think that I saw a couple of times where it got quite a bit higher than that, but I don't know that I would suggest trying to push, beyond that. It was really good at making 500 to 750 watts without a whole lot of drama. Whenever it started getting closer to the 1,000 mark, it would make a lot of noise. I would suggest not trying to do that. I have run it at 12 volts, 24 volts, 36 volts, and 48 volts. 12 volts is almost like the brakes are on. It did make, the thing actually says, oh no, that's the other one. This one only says it's rated for 12 volts. I'm sorry. This one says it's only rated for 24 volts. The little 400 said it was 12 or 24. Whenever I hooked this up to 12 volts, it didn't want to run at all. 24 volts is where it ran the best. 36 volts, it made more watts, but it ran a lot faster, and it was moving a lot faster before it actually started making power. So higher peaks, but ultimately 24 volts was higher production. Same thing with 48 volts. I didn't see as high a peak on 48 volts as I did at 36, but it ran. It was more like freewheeling. So there's that. Let's, I'm not going to pop the stator out, but we're going to take the nose cone off. That's going to come off before I can get it back out of my house anyway. It was interesting getting this thing into my house. You can say that, you know, taking apart the, or feeling the blades, I can feel that there was a little breakdown in the surface material. But you know, mostly I feel it around the trailing edge where it's just been sharpened because of all the grit and dust. From here, it actually, you can see, you know, up here towards the tips, not so much, but down here, you can see where it's worn. You know, just from use. It's interesting. Let's get is it this one? That one? No, let's get further on. There we go. Nothing interesting going on there. Let's go ahead and pop the rotor off. I think this way. No, the other way. Yeah. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey gets a little confusing from this angle. No, I don't have anything to work as a breaker. So there was no chance of it accidentally coming apart. No, we're going the wrong way again. All right. Okay, and then even around the bearing, you know, this is the same thing where I don't necessarily know that that's really grease leaking out. Well, I mean, it doesn't feel very greasy, but it's got to be grabbing, you know, something to make it sticky in there. So it's probably a little bit of oil. The shaft, I guess there's just a little bit of oil on the shaft. I go to fishing around, I can find some. But looking at the bearing still looks very good. It turns super easy by hand. I think that I haven't seen these on eBay very much anymore. Actually, the guy that I bought them from, that I bought this one from, he hasn't been carrying any since 2019. And I haven't seen them very much. They are on AliExpress and a couple of other sites. You'll be able to tell it from most of the cheaper turbines because of this body. It's very heavy, it's very big. The tail, I don't know if the tail's in the picture here, very distinctive. So If it looks like this, it's a pretty safe bet that you're going to get this kind of turbine with it. It's got a big stator, big magnets, big rotors. The prop is a good size, just a little bit noisy. Now there are some that have a lot more, I don't know what to call it. The blades look different. They've got more dish, more scoop, or whatever you want to call it there at the, towards the hub, and they're a little bit more rigid. I'm told that those blades are way quieter and that they start up a little bit better. I don't know about the startup claim because this thing was turning in the slightest breeze. Wasn't making any power, but it was turning. Now, that being said, they're over $300. I still think that the i1500, the East Breeze i1500, and I'll say that I do play favoritism. If it works for me, it's going to be something that I'm going to talk highly of. That my i1500 has been good enough that if it broke today, no matter how it broke, what broke on it, I'd buy another one. It is the standard by which I'm going to judge every other turbine. This is not as good a value as the i1500, but pretty close dollar per watt, you're talking about. This turbine is a little bit smaller. The prop is a little bit smaller. It's a little bit more compact, so it's got that going for it in favor of the over the i1500. But it makes about 3/4 the power regularly, and the i1500 has peaked way on the other side of what this thing is capable of doing. So i1500, much better buy, but if you've got $300 to spend, this is a pretty decent way to go about it. That's that. If you guys have any questions about this turbine at all, you want to see anything about it, you want to know anything that I didn't cover, please comment below, let me know what you think, and yeah. Y'all have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.